allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody bow their head, please. Dear Heavenly Father, please help us, this group in here, make decisions for the county and spend the money wisely. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Thanks everyone for attending our March 26, 2025 Scott County Redevelopment Meeting. We've got everybody here tonight except for Brad, and Brad's got a stomach bug going around, so he's dealing with that tonight. Leading off for us tonight is Josh Hillman with DC Development and kind of the whole team. And if you guys, I don't know how, if you guys want to all come up and find a seat and.
Yeah, Scott's going to give kind of our update, and then I think those guys can follow right behind.
Sounds good.
It just falls right in line.
Yep.
Got a little packet for each of you there.
Thank you.
As you know, we were here back in January and started down the path of giving you an update of our progress to date on our work and due diligence investigations of the Just Industrial Park. So on the front page is kind of an encapsulation or a summary of the work to date. New items that have been added are the zoning analysis and concept planning. And I'll talk about a little bit of both of those along with the responses to the RFIs, which leads us really to the second sheet of your handout. That second sheet is really the story, and it's a good story to tell about what's happening in Indiana in general, and hopefully that good news translates to something really positive in Scott County. And this is a summary of all of the requests for information that we've received either through One Southern Indiana or directly from the State Economic Development Agency with regard to businesses who are looking to locate and build a new facility. Some are looking for land, some are looking for buildings. And so since last July, we've received a total of 48 inquiries from businesses who want to build a new business somewhere in Indiana, but they've listed Scott County amongst the counties in which they are looking. Okay, 26 of those 48 are looking solely for land, and they would then proceed to build upon that land. 22 of them are looking for existing buildings. Somebody who's got something already on the ground that they could come in and move in right away or renovate to their specific needs. So in the last 8 months, we've fielded 48. That's an average of 6 a month. It's a pretty good clip at which these industries are moving. I've broken down the requests for land and buildings because that's really where the story starts to evolve here, and I'm sure there'll be some questions. Of the 26 requests for land, 2 of them were looking for sites less than 10 acres. Most, a total of 8, were looking for sites between 10 and 25 acres. A few, 3, were looking for 25 to 50 acres. And a fair number are looking for larger sites, 50 acres or greater. There have been a few in there that I don't know if they'll find a site in Indiana, to be honest with you. They were looking for 1,000-acre tracts for very large organizations, very large businesses. 1,000 contiguous acres is tough to come by probably anywhere, but that's what they were asking for. When you go down a little further to the request for buildings, a total of 22, 2 of them were looking for buildings less than 50,000 square feet. Most, 10, were looking for buildings between 50 and 150,000 square feet. 3 were looking in that 150 to 250 range, and 7 greater than 250. Now with that information, we begin to kind of look at the details, what they're asking for. A lot of them give us information about utility needs, other infrastructure needs. They want to be near rail, they want to be near an interchange, they need specific megawatts to run their business off of, a specific amount of sewer or water capacity and pressure. So as these come in, we research every one of them and inquire to all the utility companies about, hey, what do you have available? And if you don't have it available, what would it take to get to the point where we were able to satisfy this specific industry or business looking to locate here? So we've gathered a lot of information over the course of 8 months or so as we've looked and researched each one of these and been able to respond to many of them. But those who are looking for buildings, we can't respond because we don't have a building. We can't answer the question. We can't respond to them in the affirmative and say, yes, we have a 50,000 square foot or 100,000 square foot building, come here. We have land in all aspects. We've got land on State Road 56. We've got land down at Water Tower. We call it the Water Tower property in Scottsburg. And of course this property, got lots of land, but we don't have any buildings. So part of our discussion tonight, which Bo and Jason will certainly add to, is a discussion about the possibility of constructing a speculative building so that we can begin to answer in the affirmative. Yes, we have a building. We could answer specifically 22 times, we have a building. Now, it may not be specific to all of the needs of that particular business when they inquire, but at least we're in the door. We're opening a discussion. We have the opportunity to court them somewhat with that asset on the ground. So that's kind of where our heads are moving, and that's why we're here tonight to have that discussion. So based on this information, down below we've got 3 recommendations that have kind of either emerged or evolved from the data that we've gathered. And that is, number 1, for the Just Industrial Park, we would stress to the county the possibility or need to consider rezoning the property from I-1 to I-2. That opens the door to a much broader field of players in the industrial game, not just light industrial users, but heavier industrial users, and gives the county an opportunity to attract them to this location. I'd mentioned the possibility of funding and construction of a 50,000 square foot spec building. That is one of our recommendations as well. And then also a third is to evaluate the existing TIF district for expansion and extension to accommodate additional infrastructure for the entire Just Industrial Park. Okay, and not all day one, but in phases and as it's needed. Okay, so this information and these recommendations have led us to a concept for development of the park, and that's the next sheet. This shows the entire property, and it may be at a scale that you can't read, so the subsequent pages are zoomed in images of this master plan, if you will. But based on the data that we've seen, the size of tracts and the size of buildings that we have fielded RFIs for, you'll see that we've got, I think, 8 potential sites here, and they're all under 150,000 square feet. Because frankly, that's where the bulk of the interest has come from, is people looking for sites or buildings that can accommodate that size building. So you'll see they're coming in off US 31 next to Tri-Hawk, the first 2 sites, which the first one is actually the one that we will talk about in more detail, that would be the 50,000 spec building, but has the ability to expand to 100 or even 150,000 square feet depending upon the end user's needs. Then come past that to a 90,000 square foot facility, and then when you get to the back where additional infrastructure would ultimately be needed, There's another four users back there, ranging in size from about 82,000 square feet up to 150,000 square feet. This is just purely a concept. No one is married to this idea. Tomorrow, if an end user came in and said, "Hey, I want the entire back side for one facility," hey, this plan's out the door. We're talking to that guy. So there's opportunities here. Is really what this concept is saying to you and to the county. Is there's opportunities here to appeal to a broad range of industrial users of various sizes, but based on the data that we've received, we think we're targeting somewhere in that range of 50 to 150,000 square foot buildings on sites that range in size from 10 to 25 acres apiece. That's really all I wanted to share with you. I'm happy to answer questions before I kind of turn to Jason, Josh, or Bo for any additional information that they'd like to share. It's really, honestly, exciting to see this level of interest, right?
Very exciting.
And then have it translate into something that potentially could be real someday.
Yeah, I mean, that one site could spark all of this.
It really could. It gives us the opportunity to, again, say yes to somebody who says, "Hey, I'm looking for a building. Do you have one?" Yes, we do. Without the ability to say yes, we're somewhat handcuffed with one arm behind our back. We can give them answers to land questions, but we can't give them answers to building questions. And so that's kind of where this whole exercise has taken us with regard to the inquiries we've received and the data that's been generated. So.
Good work. I mean, this is.
So, Greg and I at the last meeting, we asked Commission's approval if it was okay for us to meet with Greg and Greg Martz, who has done a variety of BOT style spec buildings. So I think it was about a month ago we met, talked about the process, asked Greg Martz kind of how he's done this in 8 to 10 other communities across the state. And I want to say, these guys may get into more detail, but of the 8 to 10 that he had been a part of across the state, I think he told us there was only one of them that took more than 3 years to get under being sold or occupied. So seemed to have been a very strong success when he had done this across the state. So part of the process today, we'll be talking about doing a build, operate, transfer style development of this initial building, and Bo and Jason talking about funding abilities and legal process.
Okay. Thank you.
You guys go. Unless there's more questions for me, but.
No, unless you got any more stuff.
Let's go ahead and talk about numbers first. I think you have an idea of what the financing structure is going to be with the process.
Evening. I have a number of presents for you. They talked to Greg, and since I was going to be here to talk about this, I asked, is it okay if I did our annual TIP report presentation at the same time, just to make it an efficient meeting. So I have a couple different packets of information I'm going to give you right now all at once. And then we can talk.
I'll do this pile there.
Yeah, right. But for the shell building, if you turn to it's like 5 or 6 pages with today's date on it. It has proposed shell development on the regarding. We'll start with that. You turn to page 2, talking to Greg Martz, he estimated that for a 50,000 square foot building, he thought the range for the cost would be about $4.8 to $5.5 million for the construction. So I went with the $5.5 million to see how we might be able to fund that. I included some, cost of issuance about $150,000. So a total project of, illustration of $5,650,000. you look at your current finances, we're looking at funding this from the existing TIF that you're collecting from the Austin Tri-Hawk TIF area. You know, as you know, there are bonds outstanding, and I'll go through that here in a minute. But as you know, you have more than enough coming in to make the bond payments. And with that, you've accumulated over $1.7 million in that allocation fund. So this is, again, just for illustration, for talking points. I looked at what if we used 1.5 million of that cash on hand of that 1.7. That leaves you $200,000 remaining for, you know, what may come in front of you for other projects. If we just use that, that is still we need to borrow or come up with another $4,150,000 somewhere. So something that we talked about was doing what we call bond anticipation note, which is just a short-term financing that you typically issue when you anticipate future revenue coming sometime down the road, or some lump sum of money coming down the road that could pay off that loan. Bond anticipation notes are typically very flexible. We typically issue where you don't have to pay any principal until maturity, and bond anticipation notes can't go out any longer than 5 years. But we usually try to get them flexible enough that if revenue does come in, or if you do have revenue, we can start paying principal off faster if we need to. So it gives you that flexibility till the long-term revenue comes in, or in this case, we build a building and hopefully sell the building. And then we can take those proceeds and just pay off the band completely. But we just don't know. Hopefully it'll be 3 years or less, but we don't know, so that's why we try to go out to the whole 5 years, but give us the flexibility to pay it off sooner if we get that revenue. So page 3, again, just for illustration, if we were to do a bond anticipation note, and this could be through the Redevelopment Commission issuing it, or this could be through the county issuing it. The county, we would probably get more marketability, more banks interested in it, because they really, the only revenue stream that you have right now is the TIF from Austin Tri-Hawk. One taxpayer, a large part of it is personal property. As we know, the personal property equipment can fluctuate a lot from year to year. And that's something we really haven't talked about, but there's options there. We could look at. Either way, we're going to have to go to the council and get their approval, whether it's done through the county or through the Redevelopment Commission. But either way, the intent would be not to use any county revenues, to use the tax increment that you're currently collecting. So right here, if you look on page 3, again, that $4,150,000 paid back over 5 years, you can see that third column, anticipated principal payments. We're looking at $415,000 first year, you know, around $180,000, $190,000 thereafter. And that's because of your current revenue stream that I'll show you. If we can get this paid off like this, that still leaves about $2 million at the end of the 5-year period. Again, hopefully we would sell the shell building before that, and then take those proceeds and pay this off at that time. But this just kind of seems worst case scenario if at the end of 5 years we haven't sold the shell building. I'm estimating about $2 million, $2.1 million remaining at the end of the 5 years that we would have to refinance and find some other revenue stream to pay that off. If you look at the far right side, you can see the annual payment about $500,000 a year. And if you turn to the next page, I get that from the tax increment that you're currently collecting. So this year, we're estimating you'll collect about $720,000 in tax increment from Austin Tri-Hawk. The annual payment on the 2014 bonds that we issued is about $115,000 a year. And then that $500,000 illustrative payment for the bands, that still leaves about $100,000 remaining each year. I just kind of structured, we pay off the bands as quickly as we can, but still leave you about $100,000 remaining each year for administrative costs and anything else that might come up. This is just for illustration. If you want more or less, we could definitely structure that. Based upon that, again, that leaves about $2 million at the end of that 5-year period that we'd have to pay off if this shell building hasn't sold yet. That $100,000, that would also be available to, because if we do build the shell building, there will be some operating costs that will come along with the new building. You know, insurance, talking to Greg Martz, typically that is covered under the umbrella policy of the county in this case. Whether that would increase the county's, insurance, we'd have to see, but that might be an additional cost that would, funnel through to the redevelopment commission. There'll be maybe additional mowing costs we typically see with these buildings, additional power, utility. From what Greg said he's looked at, that could be anywhere from, $10,000 to $15,000 a year to cover all those expenses. So that $100,000 that I'm leaving you would help pay for that during that time frame. And then I did, on the last page, I just did a 50,000 square foot building. Again, I think what we typically see, and I think it was mentioned, is they build it, since we really don't know what the need is going to be, I think they build it so it's 50,000, but very easy to expand to something larger, but that's the desire of the company that we're trying to entice. But just looking at a 50,000 square foot building, that would generate about $2 million of assessed value and about $40,000 in taxes a year. Now, if we were to, let's say, and this often is the case, not always, and I've worked with Greg on a number of these throughout the state. Sometimes we're able to sell the building just right to the company and pocket all the proceeds. Sometimes we have to sell it as a discount, as another incentive to get that company to locate here. In some cases, we've had to give the building to them for like $1 to locate here. If we were to have to do that, just as an illustration, that $2 million that's left over, just interest alone, let's say we took out a long-term bond to pay off that $2 million at the end of 5 years. At 5%, the interest alone is about $100,000. And I'm showing here that for a 50,000 square foot building, the tax increment that we would generate is only about $40,000. So that's not enough to cover the interest only. But again, that's worst case scenario. We don't sell the building. We give it to them for $1 as an incentive, and we're going to have to go with some other revenue there to cover that $2 million because the TIF alone wouldn't support it.
And the typical that Greg has told us has done has been to put a stone base. You put your vapor barrier down, you put a stone base, and you don't actually pour the floor, so you're not paying for the floor inside of it. That way, any plumbing that are specific to the end user, you're not having to go and cut up concrete and items that you've paid for. So that's keeping that cost lower, but allowing it the flexibility for ultimately the end user.
And there was one community that we worked on together where, and it was a county, they actually, when it was a shell building, they rented it out as storage for some companies, in the community while they were, marketing it and showing it. So they were able to generate some revenue. It wasn't a whole lot, but they were able to make some use of it, while they were trying to market it.
And again, without a floor, that'd be hard to rent it, unless it's something specific for that.
Mm-hmm.
You can get in on rock and move things around. If you got concrete floor, you rent a whole lot quicker too.
Yeah.
I see what he's saying though too, about putting plumbing in that you don't need till.
Yeah, and I'm not really involved with that part of the marketing, but it does seem like, every company wants it's very specific.
Yeah.
So anything that you can do to give the most flexibility, I think is going to make it easier for you to market and get that company that you want. So
How long are you looking at to put that building up if you had to go to build that building?
I want to say this one would be looking at a metal building, so you're 6 to 8 months, start to finish.
And something I think was kind of alluded to, we talked about this on one of our calls when we talked about a month ago, is probably what we'd recommend is, I think this parcel's in the current allocation area for Austin. We'd probably carve it out and create a brand new TIF area. That way, when you do get a company there, you'll have a whole new 25-year life, which would help you pay off this bond or, do other, maybe that second phase of infrastructure. You'll have some seed money coming in to help pay for the roads, utilities, for the back end.
Greg's recommendation to us was to do a 50,000 square foot, but to also do a pad to where it's pad graded if it needs a quick expansion to 100 or 150, being able to respond as a 50,000 square foot building, even if they're asking for 100, you then have the ability to say, yes, we have an existing building, it is 50, but we can make it 100 within X days kind of thing. Or you can expand it to 100 within X days.
It's a lot.
Do you want me to bore you with legal process?
Absolutely.
So, two things from a legal standpoint. One, you've heard mentioned BOT, that's the procurement construction side. And then Jason also spoke about bond anticipation note, that's the financing side. So, with build, operate, transfer agreement, first thing we would need to do is see if the commissioners have adopted the provisions of IC 523, which allows you to use build, operate, transfer in the local P3 statute, public-private partnership statutes to construct this building. So with that process, what you would do is commissioners or this body, depending on how you adopted the provisions of IC 523, could issue an RFPQ. It goes out, you publish it in the paper, you get responses back from people who are willing to build this, you look at their qualifications, and then you can informally select who you like based on their qualifications, enter into what's called a scoping period where they'll scope the project, maybe do a schematic design. Some of the respondents will make you pay for that, some don't. There's a whole variety of ways you can do it. But you work through scoping, figure out how much it's going to cost. And if you're comfortable with it, then you go through and award it. You hold a public hearing and enter into what's called a build, operate, transfer agreement. And that's the construction and procurement piece. The financing piece that Jason was talking about, he mentioned two potential scenarios. One being the county being the issuer, the other being the Redevelopment Commission. If the county is going to be the issuer, we'll go through the county council. Either scenario, county council has to approve this through the fiscal body of the county, so they'll have a say in it. There will be public hearings in either track. The one thing, if the county issues it, would you anticipate still having a resolution from the Redevelopment Commission just saying that we may use funds to pay for it? So if the county issues it, I think you were considering a general revenue pledge with the expectation that Redevelopment Commission TIF revenues from Tri-Hawk would be used to pay for the bond. As Jason said, it'd be more marketable if it comes from the county, but it would be a general revenue bond anticipation note. It would also allow for approvals in there to do a general revenue bond if you had to take something out long term, because the bond anticipation note can only go out 5 years. If it's a redevelopment district tax increment revenue bond anticipation note, you all would have an approval. You would formally pledge TIF, but right, that was what your.
That's why we want to walk through, because since the TIF is already pledged towards the Austin Tri-Hawk bonds, we'd have to look at any kind of parity requirements. So.
Yeah, and parity, what he means is your Tri-Hawk bonds will have additional bond specs in there, meaning like those bondholders, if you go to issue additional debt, you have to have a certain amount of money to, debt service coverage. Usually 125% is that was probably in that. So your revenues need to be 125% of what your outstanding debt is for you to be able to issue new obligations that are secured by these TIF revenues. Jason would do that analysis.
The other issue that I didn't mention is the other issue that we're facing here is if you look at page 4, that is the last year of the revenue. Because the TIF area ends February 2028. So that was one thing else, is we probably have to go through the county, or because 2029, that's the last year we're going to be collecting revenue from Austin Tri-Hawk.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, given the TIF expiration, let's back up to the county being the issuer. General revenue bond anticipation note. Council would do an ordinance, there would be public hearings. Redevelopment Commission, I might still do a resolution with you all saying, We're not obligated to, but we're willing to use TIF revenues to pay this bond anticipation note. So it won't be a formal pledge, but it'll at least be something in the record for, you know, whoever 4 years down the road is looking at it, they see that this body intended to use TIF revenues to help pay for that debt, so long as they had TIF revenues available. Any questions on legal process? It's the worst part. No one really cares about it.
The other thing I thought, again, we're kind of getting in the weeds now, but something else that we can talk about is we may want to go through the redevelopment district or do some kind of, instead of the county, just to not use any of the county's debt limit in case we need it for something else.
We could do a general revenue bond subject to annual appropriation, but buyers, hopefully buyers of those too.
I actually just did that,
Did you?
and we did find a bank that was willing to do that, but
Was it a local bank?
it was a local bank, not here, but
Yeah.
in another community.
Yep.
So that is just that. I know we're kind of getting in the weeds, but just thinking of the county's other potential needs, we may not want this to count towards the county's debt limit.
That's right.
Because we may need it for something else.
Exactly.
That's right.
So we have options.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
But I guess I know there's a lot of numbers here and a lot of to think about. I guess just in summary, you do have a very, healthy revenue stream coming in, about $700,000 a year. Right now, we're only using about $115,000 for that outstanding bond. So that does leave you about $500,000 or $600,000 that you could use to help fund the shell building, if you like. You have $1.7 million in the bank right now, so that could go a long way to help funding this. But there is a little bit of risk if we don't sell the building in 5 years. We are left with, I'm showing around $2 million, that we could be responsible for taking out, down the road.
Yeah, I think that's really what it comes down to is, how comfortable are, as a board and as a county, that we are with that risk.
I'm gonna ask some dumb questions.
No?
So the BOT is someone else's money financing the building for us.
No, so BOT is really just your construction and procurement. So the private side, they're not going to necessarily bring their own cash. They could introduce a bank who would buy the proposed bond anticipation notes that you mentioned. So that's where you hear developers bring financing. That's usually what they do, is they bring a bank in to buy it. So, and there's really, you can use the build, operate, transfer agreement as a financing vehicle. A lot of people have moved away from that because it can get confusing with gateway reports, other bonds that are outstanding, and people started to use the BOT more as just the construction procurement, and then do a separate bond anticipation note or bond to pay for that construction of that project. So it is a public-private partnership. Most people think, like the Indiana Toll Road, where private entity came in, paid for it, generating revenue off of it. The BOT statute is really more just a procurement piece now, and there's not as there can be developer money into the deal. It just depends what it is.
In this scenario, who would own the building typically?
And so yeah, that's exactly right. So in this situation, you all own the land. We would give whoever a developer would be an easement, temporary easement to build the building, and you would pay them with the bond anticipation note proceeds, and then they would title the building over to you once it's done, and they've been paid for the project.
That's the transfer part.
That's exactly right, yeah.
Build,
Yeah,
operate,
Think of
transfer.
the BOT as Bo said, the procurement process. It's a way for you to be able to pick who you want to work with up front, rather than sending out requests for proposals and being required to go with the lowest bidder.
Yeah.
So this gives you more flexibility to choose who you want to work with, rather than being stuck, because you may not want to go with the lowest bidder.
Yeah, with the change orders.
Yeah, and then
And here, you get a guaranteed maximum price, so once you work out the design and how much it's gonna cost, that's what you're paying. You don't get change ordered after that. With the exceptions, if you change, the scope of the project, you will, the county does, then you might have to pay more, but, the developer can't change order you for whatever.
And they
Increased
certainly
expenses.
would. I mean, that's another big risk there, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, this takes some of that at least off the table.
And-
Because they will find ways to change order and,
Oh, that's right.
that's just the nature of it.
And Jill, you probably remember the treatment plant in Scottsburg. That was
Well,
the
and
other-
that's where, and Josh
Yes.
knows, my confusion is
Yep.
coming right now because
Mhm.
of City Hall.
Yeah,
So I'm thinking, well, that's their money, but we own the building. So I wasn't even going a step further.
yeah.
So we're doing a BOT at Mass Park right now to
Okay.
build City Hall. And so essentially, it's someone else's money to come in and do all the work. And they are paying for everything for 3 years. And at the end of those 3 years, then it's the transfer part.
You can do that, and what Jan had told me yesterday afternoon was they're intending to pay cash, so
We are,
You
yes,
are
but our
intending-
choice is either or.
yes, you
Yeah.
could finance it over that period,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
So that's why I was thinking, well, this is somebody else's money, so,
yeah.
the developer in
But
that
it's
one
the
had
developer.
offered a fee if they held and
correct.
took payments over a 3-year period.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, so,
yep.
okay.
Yeah, and the treatment plant was a little bit different. It was, the developer was promised payments over a number of years.
Yes.
They sold those payment rights to a bank. The bank put their money in to pay for the developer
Yeah.
to build it.
And it worked very
Yep,
well for
yeah.
us.
Yeah, you got a great rate on that. I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
That deal closed when my son was born. I'll never forget, I was in the
There you
hospital and it was closing.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I mean, as exciting as the drawings are, this is that scary, obviously.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, but great information.
Yeah. So, I guess, just from a standpoint of, option B here, if we was not to pursue the building, what's your recommendations as far as how that should look, to be able to advertise, to be able to market it in a way that could still draw in?
Would you need the ground prepped? I mean, like you would do a site?
There's a couple of things you could do to prep the site, parts. You got some drainage issues being around floodplain. You could do some utility extensions that basically take and make sure you have all of the utilities in the exact right spot you need them.
Can you put your detention ponds in and have that done and some of that?
You could dig detention and take that fill so you're able to have, know where your good dirt is and bad dirt is. I don't know that may be the best use at day one, but there's a number of things. So yes, I would say you look at kind of putting out there a couple of big sites to show what's available. You could advertise and RFP it on your own and request to sell it, but that you're advertising, soliciting proposals for what someone wants to do, and then have them a variety of things. So I think we could talk about that. I'm meeting with one SI tomorrow just to talk about the sites in general, some of the responses that we've gotten or not gotten, just to get an update on some of these big ones that have been out there to see what likelihood is with them. So, variety of things, but my recommendation to you guys today would just be, hey, consume the information, and maybe Bo could tell you guys the exact process if they want to solicit an RFP for development of a building and go the BOT route just to get GMP pricing, so you can lock that in, and that way if Jason gave you guys a range of 4.8 to 5.5 plus financing costs on that. So maybe you do that and you see, can you hit a a 4.8 versus a 5.5, and does the $500,000 make a difference in available funding in your package? If you end up with a $2 million bond debt at the end, does that look any different or feel any different after 3 years or 5 years?
Yeah,
So,
I just don't know how we pay for it. I mean, where does it come from? So, I think from my standpoint, I mean, it's almost you have to have a building. I mean, obviously, if we can't do that, then we would have to make the best use of what we have and try to market it in a way that makes sense. Whatever, One Southern Indiana also recommends there, but it's risky. I mean, it's very risky, but at the same time, if you do have that structure up, you could automatically bring people in to show what we have. And
I think Conco is a good example here in Scott County, that there was an existing building, existing opportunity, and even though there were other businesses that were looking, had previously been trying to go there, once they came in, they then came in and did an enormous expansion, or agreed to do an enormous expansion right on the backside of it. Scottsburg would not have been able to take advantage of that opportunity without that building. And now that was one someone else privately built, and it was sitting there vacant. But that opportunity for the community, the county and city, became available because of the existing infrastructure. And then just like we're talking, they said, hey, we're going to expand. We're going to do this on top of that. It is risky, and it's taxpayer dollars. And you all have that building at the end. It would have a price tag to figure out how to finance or pay for. But what we are hearing and what Greg Martz is telling us is that's where they're seeing success across the state. You do take the risk that you don't have somebody to buy it in a period of time, that you have finance, but his comment to us was he had seen that. I think it was only one time, Greg, that he told us while we were with him that day, so 1 out of 10. It's a risk, but it may be the way that Scott County sees that payoff and sees the return and brings in good paying jobs, but it also puts you all in a bit of the negotiating table when someone comes in looking to develop in Scott County, and you say, well, we only want to have somebody that's going to bring jobs that are above county wage, or we want to bring a manufacturing job here that may be $30 an hour versus we don't want a logistics distribution that's going to pay $21 an hour kind of thing. So it puts you all in a bit of control there in negotiating when you're working on a deal. So my recommendation would be take it under advisement, and your all's next meeting, we just kind of convene, see how everybody feels, and see what interests, see what 1SI says about existing building in between, and Bo, the process, do they want to do that, advertising an RFP, or do they have to get a resolution with council first?
For the BOT process, we would need to see if the county's previously adopted, the commissioners, the legislative body, the provision, the BOT statutes.
I would probably say not, because most people don't know.
It's a simple resolution, and once you've adopted those, then they can start the process. You can start the process. And the nice thing about the BOT process is you can shut it down at any time. You walk away, up until you sign an actual agreement at the back end, once you know what the price is.
And being that you all have funded, due diligence that shows survey, shows geotech, shows wetland, shows all the utilities, you've taken a lot of those things out of risk that a developer that wants to come in and help you build it, they're not going to go and say, hey, I got to go do survey, I got to go figure out what my soil is. You're giving that, it's yours, but you're allowing them to use it to help price your package and plan.
And that's something I agree. I talked about the last times we were on the phone was, I think Josh was referring to this. Your current workforce, your current companies, they may be thinking about expanding, and you don't even know it. But if they, I know we work over the years with the county and, you know, Pepsi's talked about expanding, you know, off and on over the years. You know, Austin Tri-Hawk, they always talk about using, they bought more land from the county. They talk about maybe expanding. If they know that you're willing to put in, you know, maybe pay for half the building, maybe they'll come in with the other half, because it's going to save them. And if they're bringing new jobs, you know, you could already have a company here that has needs that you could help them get over the hump.
Yeah, it's,
I mean, Pepsi rents a building here,
mhm.
and if we had good representation, maybe to go talk to them.
Mhm. Yeah, I think there's some value,
I
obviously,
mean,
in
rent
that.
there, you know?
So that might be your $2 million gap if you could work with one of the companies, say, well, we'll use our existing revenue stream to help pay for some of it, have them come to the table.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. We will certainly explore that as well, between now and then. Anybody got anything else? It's a lot, it's a big undertaking. I mean,
Yeah.
it's you know, county redevelopment, you know, just trying to figure out ways to keep, extend our TIF district, and we've got a lot of housing going in, as Josh and Scott know as well, here in Scott County when it comes to Austin and Scottsburg. We're always just trying to figure out a way that we can do our part and try to help with the economic situation and bring jobs in, whatever that may be and look like. But this is the perfect spot for this. We're very blessed to have this site, and the way that you guys have laid this out is, I think
It's appealing.
it very well is. I mean, especially to any folks that are out there. That's some of these folks that are looking at, you know, even the request for land or the request for buildings. This tells a lot of potential here for this site. So we certainly appreciate what you guys do. We appreciate all of you. You guys do a lot for us in a lot of ways. You know, people probably don't realize, but between us and probably the council and everybody else, Jason's always on speed dial, and I'm constantly bouncing stuff off Bo. I'll never forget Bo answered the phone. He said, "I've got like 2 minutes. You were passing out diplomas that day at IUS."
Yeah, that's right.
And he picks up. It's like, oh, he's a superstar. Yeah, so, and you know, Josh and Scott, you know, worked their tail off down here for Scott County and overall for us in Scottsburg, and we appreciate your guys' hard work and your willingness to help us, because at the end of the day, there's nobody else beating the door down, but you guys see a lot of potential in this area, and we thank you for that.
I think it's Scott County's time, and I mean, whether that's Scottsburg, whether it's Austin, or whether it's in the county, unincorporated, it very much feels like it's time for Scott County to see development and to benefit from that development, both residential and jobs and industry.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we're very close. We're very close, and so yeah. I mean, thanks. It is a lot of information. We'll take it all in and get another meeting in a couple of weeks and continue to talk about those things. If you would, when you reach back out to One Southern Indiana and kind of get some more information that you could send to us, that'd be great. I know that they have some invoices. I don't know if you're able to track those down.
Yeah, we took care of it.
Okay, we're good. Okay. If not, we'll make sure that's on the agenda for, and when I say next meeting, we'll make sure we get something timely within the next 2-3 weeks.
All good.
Yeah.
She took care of it.
Okay, good deal. I know you've got some other things that you.
Yeah, I can quickly go over that PowerPoint
Okay.
whenever you're ready.
One thing real quick before you leave. One of the things that's actually on our agenda tonight was Scott County School District 1. And so they come in asking about a donation of some sort and for some projects they had. I reached out to Bo about this a couple of days after that meeting, and I know some time has passed, and I know you had kind of gave me some information. There was a couple of different ways that we could go about helping with some of those needs that they have. I know you had mentioned, gave me examples of how Floyd County had helped with New Albany schools for weight rooms or whatever that may be. So in this case, would we need to work with you to write something up as how we would give
Yes.
School District 1 money?
Yeah, I need to double check the statute, but I can't remember. Did I send you the statute related to educational programming and eligible entities? I can't remember. I did. Okay.
You did.
It's in the, I did?
I thought he did.
Oh, did you?
Okay, it's
I
in
don't
the
remember.
additional powers of the commissions. What we've done in New Albany and other communities in southern Indiana is we've done an educational program agreement. You know, some cities will just hand it over to the schools. I always tell clients, like, you might want to make sure you put it in a contract that they're required to spend it on X, and they don't get it and spend it on Y. So we do that, and we really hammer home on everything in the statute. So if the State Board of Accounts looks at it, they see, okay, they used this for X, Y, and Z, it meets this statute. And it's usually a 5-6 page agreement. And you can structure it on a reimbursement basis, so they pay for it, they show you invoices, you can pay them for it. Or if they need the money up front, you can do it that way too. I usually tell clients to do it on a reimbursement basis so you can see the invoices coming in, know they paid for it, and they inspected everything and they were happy with it, depending on what they're doing. Do you have anything to add to that, Jason?
Is that statute, the one you're referring to, is it where it's limited to 15%?
Yes.
Of what they collect each year? So that's something that.
That's a limitation. You limit to 15% of your TIF. You can't get more than 15% of your TIF.
Okay, I apologize. I know it's been a while since you probably sent that email. It's been
I know that.
several weeks
That's why I
since
couldn't
we
remember if I
talked.
did or not. So.
The only thing that we talked about too is, and I can't remember about the economic development plan, if it's allowed.
Yeah, that's another thing we'll want to check out to see what your economic development plan looks like. See if it's accounted for in there. If not, we might need to amend that.
Okay, yeah. Probably may need that.
We might want to review it anyways, just given development is coming, add flexibility in it too. So it might be good for us to review it if you wish.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we'd certainly probably need to pursue that. I don't know the best. I like the idea of, the reimbursement through the invoices kind of thing. I think that is easier to track and for auditing purposes and such. So, but yeah, we'll probably need to reach back out and work with you to get that structured.
So the maximum we can give the school would be $105,000. It's 15% of basically $700,000. And that's a max we can do for the school.
Yeah, it's 15%. So whatever the TIF area has, 15% of that.
Okay.
What was their request? You know?
200.
200.
Yeah, that's on an annual basis.
Can they go back? I've not asked this question before, but can they go
20
back?
years. 20 years in schools never asked for a dime.
Yeah. I don't know if you can reach back. I don't think it's spelled out in statute.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
So first thing we need to do though is look at the economic development. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully it cites some statutes and it's
Yeah.
flexible.
Yeah.
And Greg, you may have sent me one of the more recent ones.
I
It's
did.
not that long ago.
Right.
I have not looked. I did go through it, but I can send that to you. I don't know.
I think they would be all right if we can help them what we can help them this year and then look at helping them again next year. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
Then we need to ask about the Fairboard too. Is that something we had talked to them about before? We talked about, building an arena, and we had said, we got into it with the golf course deal. You said that whenever, as long as they're building something new, everything would go okay.
it has to be a capital expense, and you have to make the argument that it's in serving or benefiting the allocation area.
Better quality of
I guess the
life.
question is privately owned, that was the golf course question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was privately owned.
Kind of goes
And the
back.
fairgrounds is privately owned.
on that, we went back and forth
So
a little bit.
there was an old court ruling there. It was the city of Munster.
Yeah, Munster. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Is that ring a bell?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of whatever, I mean, there's not a lot of case law, I don't believe, you would know, on that. I mean, it seems like everybody goes back to hang their hat on that particular case.
Is that what they used the tip for the parks?
Yeah, town of Munster.
'Cause
Yeah,
they used it for, instead of like buying.
They remodeled, that's what they did.
Yeah, instead of buying new swings and slides, new capital, they just, I think, painted them, improved them, and State Board of Accounts considered that maintenance expense rather than a capital
Bo,
expense.
can you look at that for me and see if we can go back?
Absolutely. Yep. And that might be, so, John, that might be one thing, I think statute's gonna be unclear. My next call would be on an anonymous basis to probably like someone at State Board of Accounts to see how they would interpret that. If it's gray, that way I can come to you to kind of tell you like, they give like an informal opinion, but I wouldn't tell them I'm calling on behalf of the next party, but it would at least give you some more comfort knowing what the risk could be like when you go through your audit.
Well, I don't wanna do anything wrong, but I wanna
Yeah,
help the school where I can
absolutely.
help them.
What might help, again, it's not trying to play lawyer, but let's say that they did approve it the last time they amended their plan, say 2 years ago. It might be easier to make the argument, hey, they approved it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It might be more difficult if they haven't, if we're just amending it now to go back.
Well, I don't want to try to explain things and somebody, well, look, you could have done. I'd rather have an honest opinion on it if we can, what we can and can't do.
Just going back to the Shell building, that's $100,000 there. We got the fairgrounds, that $100,000 that I'm leaving for
That's what
each
I-
other. We're eating that up very quickly, so, that $2 million that we have left, that's gonna be growing if we were to use that for other things. So just keep that in mind as, my goal, I feel like, is I always make sure that you don't spend the money twice, so.
Well, I probably shouldn't talk about this yet, but I will. I don't think you're gonna get a bond passed to council because we're looking at other things we're gonna have to bond this year. And we have other commissioners looking at other uses for this grant. You know, so we're just waiting. I don't think a bond's gonna happen, just my opinion. We're not quite there yet. But I'm like Greg on this one. I think our use for this ground's the best alternative.
Well, I don't
We-
know really
we
what
put
you're
a lot-
getting at, but I've not heard any viable alternative for the county that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
He
so.
didn't say it made sense.
I mean,
He just said there was.
That's why I
I
said
mean,
this was the time to talk
this is why
about it.
we're, you know, this is why, we're still talking about potential growth in Scott
Yeah.
County. Because we've had a lot of lame brain ideas that's kept us back for a number of years.
Well, I think the hard one right now is gonna be selling a bond.
Right.
You know,
I get that.
That's gonna be a tough one.
I understand.
I'm
that.
on that board and I'd have a hard time voting for it right now and I'm all for this.
Yeah,
Well, I've said.
that's why we
No,
talk about options B and C,
yeah.
whatever that is.
I think we're about Jeep right now.
Well, we will be if we.
Well, the unfortunate part is this has sat there for years. And the
30.
longer we keep letting it do that
Yes.
and don't take a chance on something,
Yeah, I mean,
we're not gonna be bringing any more revenue and this board will be done and we'll have swindled away every little
Yeah.
penny.
yeah,
So, but anyway, okay. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for
Yeah.
all that,
thanks.
a lot of work. And you're gonna do this part with us?
If you want me to. I can go through that real quick.
Okay. Yeah.
Joel, need anything else from me? I'll research that.
Appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Yeah, good to see you all.
Appreciate it.
Two.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Sure.
Be careful.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah.
Don't put him to sleep, Jason.
He said he's going quick.
Yeah, going quick. I have 2 reports, too. This is kind of the more detailed that I always give you every year, and here's the PowerPoint, the quick and easy, sweet version, so I thought I'd go through that real quick, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And really, a lot of it we've kind of hit through the shell building. If you turn to page 3, again, this is kind of our annual presentation that we do, that we're required to do every year, and present the overlapping tax units. The key thing on page 3, we kind of talked about for the shell building, it was created in 1998. It's going to end in 2028. So as I mentioned, the last year that we're going to collect the revenue most aggressively is January 28, pay 29 is the last year we're going to be collecting revenues. Down at the bottom, again, I always, work with Jennifer Nodder's office to make sure that we collect what we think we're going to collect. Last year, we'd estimated $646,150. That's what you collected. So Austin paid their taxes and paid them on time. Again, this year we're looking at about $719,000, and then 2026, $737,000. And that's because there's abatements on the building as those rolls off. That's going to generate more TIF for you. As I mentioned, you do have the one bond that's outstanding. It was issued in 2014. It's about page 4. There's $439,000 of principal outstanding. Its final maturity is in 2029. Page 5, I just put together that graph just showing you your $700,000 of revenue coming in. The annual payments, again, is about $120,000 a year. So it leaves about $600,000 of surplus, as we kind of talked about on the shell building. Again, so that can be used for any capital projects, help fund the school, do improvements to the land to get it kind of shovel ready, anything like that. Any capital project is serving and benefiting the area. So even things that aren't touching the area. So that's the Austin High Tri-Cock, or the Northern Scott County Economic Development Area. Any questions on that or regarding the shell building? And the last area is the Central Scott, area that we created in 2020. That was to capture all the fiber that was being installed in this area. Right now, under current law, for new TIF areas, there's a 25-year clock, but that clock doesn't start until we issue bonds. So that's right there where you don't see an end date. Now, there's being legislation being proposed that would in that one would have a 20 or 25 year life, because kind of legislators got wind of, these could go on forever if you never issue bonds. So that could change, but right now it doesn't have an end date. You can see last year you collected about $9,500, and this year we're anticipating to collect about $17,000. And if you remember, the reason this area was originally created at that time, those who created it on the board, what the thought process was to capture this revenue and then use it to help make road improvements on that area. You don't have to do that, but that was kind of the initial thought that this money would be used for. And then page 7, we've seen this before. Page 8, then again, this just shows, again, as people think that we're taking, kind of one of the misconceptions is we're taking money away from taxpayers. And if you were to end the TIF area, units would get this huge windfall of money. This schedule is, I've gone through it with you before, but again, it's just showing that, right now we capture, if you look at that box, about $36.9 million in revenue in Austin Tri-Hawk, which generates that $760,000 once the abatements roll off. If we were when we end the TIF area in 2029, it shows the tax rate would go from $2.51 up above to $2.27. It would just reduce tax rates. And really the only unit that would see any new money would be the county, because of your Hume Cap Development Fund, because it does increase in revenue as your tax base increases. You'd see an extra $6,700. All your other funds would just decrease in tax rate, because again, as you know, we can't levy another penny in the county general fund because you're maximum levy. It would just reduce tax rates.
That's gonna be helpful, ain't it?
Yeah. So you'd be foregoing $760,000 in TIF, and you'd reduce the tax rate, in Jennings Township by, 24 cents, which is positive. I mean, we want to keep tax rates low and reduce, the tax burden for your taxpayers, and that would reduce circuit breaker losses to some extent, but you're losing that $760,000 of annual revenue. So I know I went through this kind of quick, but I know you've gone through this before, and you're probably tired of hearing me talk.
Good numbers.
Yeah, thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Makes us that much more scary.
Yeah.
I mean, how many years is the referendum rate on Scott? Do you know?
Let's see. No, I don't know. I don't even know if that's a debt rate or a operating. Because usually operating are only good for like 3 or 4 years, and they have to.
That was to build the new.
So it was a building. So
facilities.
it's probably 20 years. I'm guessing it's probably for a 20-year bond.
I wondered
Yeah.
how long it was. Okay.
Yeah. It's a big number. Big rate.
number.
The only other thing, I won't go through, but I wanted to let you know, we worked with Jennifer, and as you remember, by April 15th, we have to file some information on Gateway, last year's information. So I have that here for you to look at. There's issues with Gateway where we enter stuff in and it deletes it. So we're working with, DLGF is aware of that, we told them. So as soon as that's fixed, I'll let you know when everything's submitted, so you go in and submit it.
Okay, that'll be
But
great.
here's a draft of everything we're putting in for you.
Thank you.
And that's due April 15th, and that just, as we talked about, that has to be presented to the council, just to let them know that they've received it for them too.
So there's a good chance you'll get to do that twice, Jennifer. That's what I heard. Yeah. There's one thing on Gateway that.
Yeah. I know I went through some of that kind of quickly, but I'm happy to, I just don't want to take too much of your time.
It's clear as mud.
Then I've done my job. You'll have to call me to come back. The only other thing, I did see the Trust Indiana's on your agenda. The county treasurer did call me the other day.
Yeah.
And wanted my advice, or my opinion on that. I don't want to skip over, but I'm happy to talk about that if you want.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Indiana Trust, they are a good program. I mean, we have a whole department that invests funds as well, and Trust Indiana, they're I think 4.28% right now, and that's really good.
Yeah, it is.
That's really good. And they're very liquid. That's also what's really good about them is you can, get the money, whenever you need. It's basically a money market fund is what it is. It's very liquid. So I don't see any issues, with investing your proceeds. The only thing is if I thought, that 1.7 million that you have in there, if we knew we weren't going to touch that for 6 months, a year, we might want to think about, maybe not right now, but again, the trust fund's a money market fund, so it goes down very quickly. So right now, I think the Fed's thinking about holding rates, but they're constantly talking about reducing the Fed rate. When it goes down, that Trust Indiana fund's going to go down along with it. So if we didn't think that we needed that 1.7 million for quite a while, or let's say $1 million, it's something that you might want to think about locking it into like a 6-month CD at that 4%. Because I do think rates are going to go down later in the year. It may hold, last I've heard from the Feds, they're going to try to keep it constant. That's the only thing that if you think rates are going to go down in the future, you may want to lock it into something. But with a CD, you don't have that flexibility. It's not as liquid. So if you were thinking about if we were thinking about going forward with the shell building and using that, I'd probably say don't lock it into a CD. But if you think you're going to keep it for a while, and we think rates are going to fall, we may want to lock it in. But right now, I think with the way the rates are, I'm going to stay constant for a while. I think the Trust Indiana is a good alternative. Very low risk.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and not just for the RDC, but for the county. That's a good use. And we have a lot of our clients, and we recommend that to them.
Okay. Yeah, I know, when Ryan called me, I said, let's see what Jason's opinion on it, so
Yeah.
thanks.
Well,
for-
hindsight's 20/20, but if we put it in there the first of the year, and it's gonna be June, July before we got to use it, we'd have made good money.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I said, even if we're going to say we're going to do the shell building, it's going to take us 4 or 5 months. That's 4 or 5 months earning at 4%.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
every little bit helps.
I love the idea.
So.
6 months, yeah. Yeah, we may pull the trigger on that.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah,
Put $1 million in it.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We only have a couple more things. Are you available to kind of like stick around after
Yeah.
the meeting or something? Okay, I'll get with you. A little bit. Thanks, Jason, I appreciate it. Jonathan, do you wanna, come on up? Sorry, I know we had a lot going on there and.
I did a little bit of math on this. You guys all got a paper on this. I did a little bit of math on it. I gave you the bottom section of that paper.
I can give you the whole thing if you want.
Oh, is it in the packet?
Here you go.
Bid you killed the tree, we'll take it.
I've already got this one here, yeah.
Thank you.
So we got money from, ARPA funds to build a new arena. And, it wasn't quite what we asked for, but it was great. I mean, we're tickled to have it.
How much was that?
80,000.
80?
And that was enough to, improve some drainage, build the new structure, and then enclose the announcer stand. And then basically what this is asking for is just to finish it up really. It's a new aluminum bleachers, to fence the rest of that area in, money for that.
The building over the bleachers.
Yes, it's bleachers, and then shows what the bleachers would cost, and then additional to add a roof over top of the bleachers. And then fencing to fence the rest of that area off in case something got loose, wouldn't wind up on the interstate or something.
So what was the total of this request?
Looks like about 94,000, but I can't.
Yeah, I didn't really total it, I just did all the line items, like what things were individually, and then was hoping some of it would get funded. It'd be great if it was all, you know.
You say 94?
94 for everything. That's PA system, that's the restrooms, the sand to finish it up with, the materials for the fence and the gates.
Are you just adding this stuff highlighted?
Yes.
Where are you getting 94?
Well, you got 4 times, or you got 35, 320, and then you got, 10,000. 10,000 for each unit, so you've got 4 units. That's another 40,000 there. Am I correct, Jonathan?
Yes.
So it costs 10,000 to put a roof over each section of bleacher, is what he's saying. You understand me, Jill?
Yeah, I just don't see that line. I've
Well,
got
it's-
fencing.
It says,
just
add-
past
it's
the
right there,
highlighted.
it's the second line.
To add a roof to each 20-foot section adds 10,000 per unit.
Okay, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not the best at putting presentations
No,
together.
that's fine, I just want to understand it. 10,000.
And now, this is gonna have that completed out there, ain't it, ready to?
Yes, and we're working towards this. It may take us eternity to get it done, but you know, this would be completely done.
And John's been going out and talking to people and
Yes,
telling
we
them
have,
what
we
we've
have,
got.
we have dates committed for
To
people
use- to
coming
use
to
it.
use the arena. Plus, this is gonna be awesome for 4-H.
Oh,
This is a
excellent.
spectacular facility for 4-H now.
Well, how much was your request to Visitors Commission? Because you all came to them too with an application.
Yes, I think that was before, I think that was the 80,000 before, wasn't it?
No, I think.
I'm not sure, John McNeil
He
always
just
goes and
came.
does that. Oh, okay,
Yeah, he just came last meeting.
I'm not sure. what he-
Okay. But would that be for some of this?
Probably, if it was horse arena stuff, 'cause
It
this is all
was.
that's
He,
left.
it was. He brought us this presentation.
Yeah, then it'd be the
Because
same
that, we
thing.
were, yeah, okay.
Cause this is all that's left to get this finished up, is this stuff in this
Is
presentation.
do you know if the visitor commission is intending on helping them any with it, or have they made it that far?
They vote April the 9th on it. That, we always do one meeting past. So they did take it under advisement and they'll vote April 9th.
But we don't know the ask. How's that?
I'm not sure what he asked, cause this, I put this together,
If
I'm
I have
not sure.
service, I can tell you, but
That's okay.
yeah, I
I didn't know if Jonathan might know.
Is our next meeting gonna be after the 9th? Could we not just kinda table this until we see what they do?
No, I just kinda wanted to get Jason's advice on this too, is what I was trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
Guess I can text John and ask him what his appointment was.
Oh, she'll have it hunted up here in a minute. She ain't like me, take 15 minutes to find a text.
well,
I don't know if you'll get John to text back, he's working on the water leak that I left him on to come here, so.
You didn't hook the water line and see how hard you could pull it before you left, did you?
No, it was already broken out.
When do you next meeting?
April 9th. Is that a Tuesday?
Wednesday?
Oh, well, then it's the 8th. It's
Okay.
Tuesday. That's the second Tuesday of the month, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could, if everybody's schedule allowed, I mean, we could try to make it back in here on the 10th.
Can we try to start setting these meetings for the second week of the month, either Thursday or Friday, either one, so I get a, something more
Consecutive
schedulable?
calendar.
That second week of the month is when I'm trying to get all my meetings done. I know it sounds stupid, but
Well, I won't be here first of May, so.
So,
And we'll have to what you got. I'm going to Alaska.
so maybe we could look at the 10th, that way in the city side of stuff, or you, or on the 10th maybe.
Can you all make it the 10th though? You can?
Yeah, well, you're going to Alaska when?
That's
In
That's in
May.
May, so.
you rub that in about all.
You good that way? And I'll
I'm gonna
check
continue to rub it in.
with Brad and see what he's got going.
So you wanna just say April 10th
Yeah.
at 6 o'clock?
So, there you go. We'll just go ahead and advertise that, and we'll have that locked down.
It gives them
That's
time
on
to focus
Thursday,
on us
yeah.
Oh,
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I sent some pictures in, but if you guys find yourself cruising down 31, swing.
Yeah, so
take a look
here's,
at it.
here's some cool pictures that Jonathan was able to take with his drone, and this is out there and shows some of the work with the horse arena that's already been done.
It's the old arena.
I know, but, okay.
Yeah,
I thought you got rid of the tree.
Yeah, that's old pictures. You scroll on down, there's some.
He asked for 25,000.
Was that for the arena? That's usually just for the fair
Is it?
sponsorship.
It says
Yeah,
they
no,
made it
that's what
clear
it
that the
is.
money could
He
not
hasn't
be,
came back for the fair part yet.
he said that it had to be, made it clear that it could not be used for infrastructure. The 25,000 he asked for, so they couldn't use it on any of these projects. That's just to get the fair to go this year, and then,
Sean takes care of that. I really had no idea.
And he had a water leak fixed tonight.
yeah, well, my friends are.
But that's, man, it's been great, but, you know, everybody was scared of the wooden fence, so. But that's the old arena. If you'll just keep scrolling down, you'll eventually get to new pictures. That's still old. That should be the last of the old pictures. Yeah, there's the new one.
Wow.
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 And it's got there's pens at the west end for livestock, you know, like roping cattle and stuff, and then a 10-foot alleyway down the north side, and then roping chutes here on the east end. And
They do rodeo,
Yeah.
and you talked about that Jennings and Jackson had rodeos too, but they did it on the track and everybody's
On the track
complaining.
because of the amount of,
But they were complaining about the track was too hard on
Right,
the
yeah.
horses.
Yeah, I mean,
Or the
people-
sand would actually make them work better because it wasn't as hard on the animal.
Yeah.
So I think it's gonna draw some people in.
Yeah, this is a big deal here.
Well,
It's,
clearing the trees out and
And
stuff, that's
if
really.
you've got the best facility in 6 counties.
Yeah, we cleaned all the trees out because they'll bring this livestock on semis and stuff, so they'll need plenty of room
To turn and
get
everything
semis and
else,
stuff in there.
Yeah, very nice.
Yep, so the fencing is basically gonna go on the,
Outside
on the
perimeter,
west end, yeah.
west and east side.
That way it's just 2 gates at the road, so if something did get loose, somebody could run to the gates and at least keep it in that area. you know?
Right.
Do we have, I mean, is there any plans like with the drainage out here?
So I mean, it's not been great weather, so we put 5 new runs running north and south across the arena, and it's just past that fence, so we can hook back onto it and go all the way to the road. It's been so sloppy, and we were digging
Yeah.
trees out and stuff, but we're going to get that.
You're gonna put a trunk line up to the road then, pretty much.
Well, it dumps into this ditch that we
Yeah.
rip wrap
Yeah.
right there. While that arena was gone, we rip wrapped that ditch and I dipped it all out and got it flowing nice. And it's definitely way better because I mean, you know, it rained a ton this
Oh,
week,
my
and you
goodness.
see how little water there is in that arena now.
Yeah,
That was today. I took those pictures about 2 o'clock today. But they will be finished up this week, building the arena. They're down to the welding now. They're welding all the caps and the pipes and all that. And then that's the, you know, corrals at the end for the livestock.
Who gave the ARPA funds to them? The council or the commissioners?
both.
Both.
You voted for it and then they distributed it?
Yeah.
Did you all request financial reports or anything on the money spent?
No,
No.
we don't.
So you just gave it to them?
We gave them.
What they
Well,
spend it on, they spend it on?
Well, that we knew what, they already had told us that 65,000
They had come
was
in
what
with
the pins, they gave us a breakdown of what that was gonna be spent on.
Okay.
Yeah, they just didn't bring us receipts.
But they gave us a breakdown when they asked for the money, what the money was gonna be
Yeah,
used for.
yeah.
And we were told by the attorney that there would be an audit, so make sure that
Yeah, I like
the
to
Ts
see
were crossed and the dots were out.
Yeah,
And we
John-
started a separate account, put that money in, so I mean, it's
Yeah.
only for this.
It was John initially with the presentation and the breakdown of the funds that was needed. John and who else came in with John that time?
Probably Clint James.
It was Clint.
Yeah.
That's exactly who it was. Yeah.
And so we started on that, but I've been down there about every day for the last month. Clint's been down there a lot helping too. I mean, it's been quite a job. And, you know, without
You
a
guys
lot
have
of
supplied the
volunteer.
labor for pretty much what you've done, other than the pins and stuff.
Well, it looks
With all
great.
the money, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, it looks great. You guys have done a great job.
I
Yeah.
think it's gonna be great for everybody, really.
Well, that's what, you know, a lot of people don't understand that. If you give them $10,000 to go out there, that $10,000 is buying material. Cause them guys are doing all.
They're doing most of the work.
Yeah, this is unusual because we got to contract out the arena getting
Yeah.
constructed. We thought we were originally just gonna be able to get material and we were gonna have to build it. But the ARPA funds we were able to contract that out. Ben.
So someone built that for you?
Yes, guys out of Seymour.
Okay.
They make the tubing and everything in Seymour, so it's semi-local, but, you know.
I think it's gonna be nice.
I just hope it's a good draw for them.
I think it will be, because they've got parking.
You know,
We've had a lot of interest and 2 dates confirmed so far, and it's not even done yet, you know.
I know, at the last visitors commission, when John came, there was actually another arena in town. And he had to kind of tell,
Well, and I didn't know this, I'm not a horse person, there's different calibers of arena.
Correct.
There's like a riding
Yeah.
arena, and then
Yeah.
there's this type of arena.
yeah,
And we're all learning this stuff.
yeah, so.
Yeah, you can
but your
play
rider
the
footing is.
basketball state final.
Yeah,
I've heard a lot of
yeah,
Paris
yeah.
crossing, or you can,
Yeah.
He felt bad because she got up and made a big presentation, then he said, he got up with his pictures. He was like, well, sorry, but, yeah, so.
And like what we're hoping for is, you know, people gonna rent this and have a big crowd. We got some RV spots down there and plenty of parking and
Yeah.
I mean, that parking lot's a little soft, but we're gonna get that straightened out. You know, everything's expensive. Huh?
Meant to tile it too.
That's what I'm saying, we stubbed all the tile out under the fence so we can go on across the parking lot.
Okay, good deal.
We've just had so much trying to get everything else done, we can do that once them guys are out of there.
So do you or someone care to come back on April the 10th? And that way we'll know what the visitors, if you guys are okay with that on the board, that way we'll know.
I'm all
What
right
the-
with that.
I just move we
Make sure-
table it
Okay.
till the 10th or
I'll
9th.
I'll make sure
whatever.
John goes to that visitors commission meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
case they have some
Yeah, I
questions
think he
over.
knows, but yeah.
All right, so, John Collins made a, motion down there to table, the,
I seconded it.
Scott County Fair Board's need, and Johnny White seconds that, so all in favor of
Uh,
table?
Well, thanks a
Thank-
lot. If you guys get a chance, swing in there and
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah,
Sorry, I had to say.
Oh, that's fine.
Great,
the boring
great pictures, Jonathan.
Yep.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thanks, sir.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Very good. I mean, that's great. So that covers down to there. The last thing that we got down here, we have the YMCA funding. And Johnny had requested that to be on there.
The reason I requested that was, I'm not saying I don't support the Y by no means, but what I agreed to support out there was basically a vision by Donald Connor, and Donald's no longer out there. And until they get another director and we get to hear what their vision is for that Y, I don't think we have any business giving them $250,000 right now. I don't know how to word that any better than that. I had a lot of faith in the program he was wanting to fund, or ask us for funds for out there. And we don't know the next director is gonna share that vision. And until I can hear what they're planning on doing with it, I'm not interested in giving them $250,000. That's just my
Well,
thought.
it's no different than having to have invoices for everything everybody does, you know?
Yeah, I guess my question would be is, once you voted to do it, can you stop
We
it?
can rescind the
That's a
vote.
legal question.
We can rescind the vote.
Absolutely.
And my other question or comment would be is, I don't think they can go away from the Ready grant that was presented.
Yeah.
Like, they can't, that was a grant, they can't just go in and start changing the plans that they submitted.
And they've
They
already
have
spent
to
for a
go
study.
by what they
Dave,
submitted.
what now?
They've already spent for a study also.
Yeah.
For that building.
So just to ease your mind, I'm not disagreeing with you, but to ease your mind, they cannot go away from what was submitted.
So they've got to continue on with the project pretty
They
much.
have
That's-
to, and they
that's
have
what's
to do it
submitted.
the way it was
Okay.
submitted. Like, somebody else can't walk in there as a director tomorrow and say, I don't want the bathroom on the left-hand side. They submitted it on the right-hand side, and it has to go,
They've already got plans.
that's,
Okay,
that's,
well,
I mean, with the Ready grant, I don't know how much you're involved, but I don't think you can go a lot away from it.
Yeah.
It's probably not detailed to the bathroom
Yeah.
side, but
They've awarded that money based on.
for daycare,
Yeah,
for daycare,
primarily,
yeah.
yeah.
But
So you're comfortable letting it alone then?
I don't think without a director out there right now, anything's gonna move forward anyway.
Those
And
things
I
take-
trust the board. I'm just gonna tell you, it'd be no different than the people sitting out here. We're sitting here because someone trusted us to be on here, to do the right things, and I trust their board.
And I'll say this, those Ready moves very slow. So it could be,
They haven't even distributed.
Like I
The
said, it's
Ready One has to get to 65% spent before they can even dish out money for Ready Two. And they're looking at June, end of May, June, before they would even be ready to look at distributing Ready Two.
Keep
It's
it-
gonna be,
yeah, that's a good
I think
point.
it'll be a year, but
That's a very good point.
So our funds stay where they're at?
Absolutely.
And until that
that
point?
distribution needs to be made, yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, and
yeah.
I'll say this, you know, Scott County Commissioners, you know, we allocated Ready One funds.
Right.
To the Y.
Right.
So, I mean, they're very dependent, the YMCA is very dependent on city
Assistance, yeah.
and local
We gave them
government.
money too, City of Stockford gave them
Absolutely.
money too.
Well,
See, I'm
they kept the
on,
doors open.
Yes.
I mean, that's.
I'm on the other end of things than Jill is. She trusts the board. I trusted Donald. You know, I don't even know who all their board is out there, but, I know I trusted what he told me.
Sure, yeah, and, like I say, I mean, that's a fair point, I mean,
I think
If
if
they
you would
get-
talk to the board at all, you would feel, more confident and better too, that they're not gonna,
I think too, by the time they get new leadership in, probably to address some of your concerns with that, like I say, the whole process moves so slow.
Well, you
that I'm-
guys are way more familiar with that than I am. All I was looking at is I based my vote to give him that money based on the job that I knew he was
Right.
doing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's not there to do that job now, and I hate to give a man $250,000 and I ain't got a clue who that's gonna be.
yeah.
Well, but they, like I said, they gotta be held accountable for it, so.
Yeah, it was a Y plan. It was a Y plan.
Yeah.
And I think the board was very involved in the ready process. So, yeah, I have all faith, and the money's not gonna move yet. It's gonna be months.
Okay.
I move we pass the minutes.
Fair concern, I mean, fair concern, I just say that. Consideration of minutes, do you have those for us? Everybody had a chance to look, everybody okay with the minutes? With that, John Collins makes a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second that.
Johnny White, second, all in favor of that? Alright. So, sign these. And I guess while we're signing these, anybody got anything else for?
Can we do anything for the school?
Well, we're looking into that. We just need to get that dollar amount down. The way it sounded, we're around 100,000.
Oh, that's what I'm saying, that's all we can give them this time, is 100,000.
and,
115, I think that's what you said.
105, what he said.
105.
That's what Johnny said.
Now, obviously, if we work with Boda Structure, some type of agreement,
Yes.
type contract or whatever, we can go that route and move forward to work with Bo to do that.
Yeah.
Well, and my 105,000 was just basing off of $700,000. I mean, I don't know that's exactly what it is, but that's.
Well, whatever we're legally capable
Yes.
of
That's-
giving is what
that's
you
it.
wanna give,
Yes,
right?
exactly,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And are you all in agreement that we would do the agreement where we would see what it's spent on?
Yeah,
Like
Yes, I would say, yeah, I'd like to
send us
see, yeah.
receipts
Okay.
for whatever.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's best for auditing purposes.
I think it is
If someone
too,
comes
yeah.
back and say, hey, we paid for whether it's the
And-
ball field, the
Well,
tennis courts,
right.
whatever.
And after we done what we done with the city up there for the, infrastructure project up there, I went to Chris and I
The
asked
fuel
him
mark.
when they had spent that, I wanted the receipts for it, and they've agreed to that. That was an oversight on my part.
Well, I think it's good practice, you know.
It was oversight
Not
on-
that we don't trust people, but it's just,
No, I
it's good
trust them,
auditing
but
practice.
it seems like that's always the one project that State Board of Accounts walks in and says, hey, can I see the agreement or the receipt on that? And then you have nothing. And then you're
Right.
like, man, if I would have just stuck with that plan with everyone.
Well, it was an oversight on Greg's part, cause he didn't kick me in the shin and say you forgot to.
Yes.
Well, and that's primarily why I tasked Andrew with updating the LAO system to where we can put in attachments for invoices, so you can go back and
Well,
look
that
and
would
see
be so
what.
handy, just
And-
like for tonight, you could look at the actual invoice that's sent in,
Well,
that was in there.
Yeah.
Just so y'all know where they're at up there, they've got their bids on the road finally and, just waiting on weather to break to get it done in Austin.
So it's awarded?
Yeah.
Who got it?
If you said the name of it, I'd know it.
E and B?
but
Tell
No.
Mary.
Temple and Temple?
No.
Falls,
No,
Wingham,
no.
Louisville paving.
Mac,
All
All-Star
Oh,
Paving.
All-Star
I think
paving?
what he said.
Okay, yeah.
We were getting there. We were going
Yeah.
through the alphabet.
Yeah,
We just didn't start with the A's.
See,
yeah.
I think that's what he told, what Chris told me.
Okay.
I called him the other day and asked him about it, cause we hadn't seen nothing. And I went over to Fuel Mart, filled my truck up and had about put my head through
That's
the
what
roof
I've
of my
heard,
truck.
yeah.
I said, Chris, I know we helped you on that project,
Yeah.
did you forget to do it?
Yeah, that's, that road is very well needed in repair
Oh.
for sure, so.
Oh, it's bad.
We'll go ahead and just put the school funding again on there for.
The 10th.
Yeah, I think we're gonna look at the plan, the economic, yeah.
Yeah.
We have to look at the economic plan, yeah.
Yeah, so there's some things we gotta do, we'll get there with that, but, if anybody don't have anything else,
I move we adjourn.
got a motion to adjourn, I'm gonna second.
You can have that.
I'm gonna second, I'm gonna jump in
How'd you beat John?
and get that. So all in favor of adjourning? Aye. Thank you.